Hi everybody, welcome back to the channel. It is lukemick here, and you are watching my first Halloween themed video for October of 2021. I feel like I'm a little bit late to the party. It's already like mid-October and I'm like already very quickly running out of time to do all this stuff. But this video is going to be me basically going through my entire Scream Factory Blu-ray slash 4K collection and just showing you all what I have, because these are pretty much all horror movies and pretty fitting for the Halloween mood, and there's some great just Halloween season classics within the Scream Factory line. And yeah, that's pretty much what this video is going to be. Plus, they should have a sale upcoming, or maybe it's already gone live by the time I post this video. I will be throwing out recommendations throughout this video, just saying, hey, this is one of my favorites that Scream Factory has put out, or this is just a great horror movie in general. So if you're looking for recommendations for this upcoming Halloween sale, or any future sales from Scream Factory, then you can use this video in my voice as a sort of reference for what you should be looking out for during the sale. You all know how it goes. Now we're going to jump into this here, and I was going to do them in alphabetical order, but then I realized that, you know what, it's just, there's too much, it's too chaotic. There's no way I'd be able to actually put these back on top of each other in alphabetical order, because I have such a tendency of just throwing what I'm talking about onto the cushion here. So I'm just going to talk about these in random order, other than the steelbooks. The small number of steelbooks I have, I'll group together, and the multi-film box sets I'll group together. I'll save those to the end, so we're going to kick through all of the normal standalone releases from Scream Factory first. So anyway, let's get started with the first one I have here. John Carpenter and Tobe Hooper's Body Bags. I just watched this last night, actually, for the first time ever, and it's a good little anthology horror film. I think every story has a good piece. Some of them aren't as interesting as others, but it's a cool project. I liked it. Here is probably the quintessential anthology horror film of the era from 1982. We have Creepshow. This is packed full of stories. My favorite one is probably the one with Stephen King. I just find it to be the most funny and the most memorable. This is a really cool set. They give you a really nice hard cardboard box, so if you don't have this film and it sounds like something you would enjoy, you should definitely check it out. I think all of these are directed by George A. Romero too, so you get a very prolific director with a very prolific writer in Stephen King in the Creepshow film, so that's pretty cool. We have a late 90s witchcraft classic, The Craft. Haven't seen this film actually, so I can't really say anything about it. Class of 1984. I haven't seen this one, but I did watch Class of 1999, the sequel to this film, and I thought it was pretty fun. I hear this is pretty different from its sequel. The Cellar Dweller and Catacombs double feature. I think this thing is technically out of print now. Haven't watched it yet, so I can't really speak to its quality. Cat People. Added this to the collection pretty recently. It's actually directed by Paul Schrader and stars Malcolm McDowell, so it sounds pretty interesting to me. I was about to watch it one night, but then I saw it was 2 hours long, and I thought, I don't have time to watch a 2-hour long film tonight. I need something 90 minutes, please. So I haven't gotten around to watching this one yet, but I'm very much interested because I love Paul Schrader. Candyman, Farewell to the Flesh. This is the sequel to the 1992 Candyman film. Candyman, the original, this film, one of my first big recommendations for this video. I think Candyman is just a horror classic at this point. The villain is equal parts horrifying and threatening, but also very compelling and sympathetic. It's just a great mystery. It'll always keep you guessing, and I love the art direction in this film. This slipcover in particular gives you a bit of a peek as to what you can expect some of the imagery in this film to look like, but Candyman is just it's one of the greats, honestly. I love it to death. Next up here is Brian De Palma's Carrie. Good film. A lot of people love and talk about this film all the time. I watched it for the first time last Halloween and thought it was pretty good. It's not something that stood out as being totally fantastic to me, but I do like the film and would recommend it. Bubba Hotep, this stars, well, it's Bruce Campbell. Yeah, he does star. It stars Bruce Campbell, and it's directed by Don Coscarelli, if that's how you say his name. I talk about this man quite a few times on my channel, but he directed Beastmaster and the Phantasm films. I haven't watched this yet, but yeah, it looks like it's like Elvis influenced. It looks kind of weird. I actually don't know what that film's about. I just like Bruce Campbell, so I bought it. When did this movie come out? 1981. Okay, so we have The Burning, and this is a sort of Friday the 13th slasher ripoff movie that I actually rewatched last year. I had watched it many years ago and found it to be a little bit boring and dull and didn't remember liking it, but I actually enjoyed it quite a bit rewatching it last year. The makeup effects are done by, of course, Tom Savini, and they really were able to go all in with the gore in this film. And it actually is kind of tragic because a lot of the characters that they off in this movie really aren't dumb, annoying characters that deserve it. It's actually a bunch of like innocent kids. So it's a pretty dark slasher from 1981. And if you're into slashers, then I think you definitely have to watch The Burning. It's a pretty good film, actually, after I rewatch it after years of it just sitting and soaking into my mind. We're gonna move on because I can't even. Okay, this one is actually out of the print. It's out of print, and there's a newer 4K edition of it coming out through Kino Lorber, but it is Invasion of the Body Snatchers. I was gonna watch this film actually last week, but the length of almost 2 hours shied me away a little bit, so I haven't watched it yet, but I fully intend to watch this for the first time this Halloween season. I hear it's a great film. In the Mouth of Madness, John Carpenter's 1993 or 94 film starring Jurassic Park, Sam Neill. I keep forgetting his name this season. I don't know why. Last year I knew his name like I knew my own name, but this year whenever I talk about this film and him, I'm like, wait, what's his name? Jurassic Park, you know who I'm talking about. I really like this John Carpenter film quite a bit. I don't think he wrote it, but he directed it. It sort of plays with the idea of Stephen King as a horror writer and the influence he has on his readers. And it's a pretty interesting psychological horror film that I just really enjoyed. Idle Hands, this is a late 90s, like maybe 2000 horror movie that I truly don't know much about. I just really liked the cast, so I bought it. The House That Jack Built, directed by Lars von Trier. I actually haven't watched this film yet, but I very much intend to. It's supposed to be just a completely disgusting and vile film about a serial killer and some of his victims, and I think it focuses a lot on how he sort of mastered his craft and became more efficient at killing people, serial killing people. It sounds like a really messed up movie, something that I could definitely see Lars von Trier making. So that is The House That Jack Built, and I'm also really interested in this film because it stars Matt Dillon, who doesn't get a lot of credit these days in Hollywood and in the film industry, but a role like that for him, current, is something I'm really interested in. Now let me take a sip of my coffee here. Okay, I want to watch this film every Halloween, but I've only seen it once. I always have it on my mind, but I just haven't gone back to watch it ever since first watching it, and that's Ginger Snaps. This is a great 2000s horror film about two sisters who, one of them, the older one, is becoming a werewolf, and it's just a really interesting way to tell a horror story, and I've always really liked Ginger Snaps. I can't remember every detail about it because it's been so long since I watched it, but I remember really enjoying it, so I think you could blind buy Ginger Snaps. I would highly recommend it. From Beyond, this is directed by Stuart Gordon. I think he's also the director of Reanimator, if I'm not mistaken, and this film is really similar to Reanimator. It stars Jeffrey Combs, again, as a sort of mad scientist type who's messing with body horror stuff, and it's an H.P. Lovecraft story. And I watched this film last year, and I thought it was pretty good, although something about it felt oddly limiting. Something about the set, like they were in one location for a lot of the film, and I just felt like, I don't know, something about it felt weird. I can't remember exactly. But yeah, I liked it. I liked the body horror effects, and it is a fun story, and it has a good cast of characters. But there was something about it that rubbed me the wrong way just a little bit. I don't know. Let's keep moving on. Firestarter, I think this is a Stephen King adaptation, starring Drew Barrymore. I don't know too much about it. Have never watched it. Final Exam, this was one of the really early Scream Factory films that I bought, like, way back in the day. And it's a decent slasher. It's not particularly great, but there is a pretty surprising and very outdated fake school shooting in this movie, which was, in this day and age, that was kind of a shocking thing to see as played off as kind of like not a joke, but just I don't know. It was weird. Final Exam. I wouldn't really recommend it. It's not that great, but it's interesting. The Victors, starring Jessica Harper. Haven't watched this one yet, but I am very much interested in it. Escape from New York. I've only seen this film once, and it may have been back on DVD, honestly. I've had this Blu-ray for a long time, but I haven't watched it since I bought it, and I know I like the film. It's just I haven't gone back to it. Obviously, one of John Carpenter's most recognized works. Drag Me to Hell, Sam Raimi, his most recent horror movie. Yeah, it is his most recent one. Really fun. I haven't watched the Scream Factory edition yet, but I've seen this film several times. Lots of shades of Evil Dead in there, so it's a fun time. What is this? The Dungeon Master and Eliminators double pack. I think this is something that went out of print, and it was really cheap, so I just grabbed it. I haven't watched it yet, but it does look pretty cool, honestly. Demented, I haven't watched it yet. Dead of Winter, another one that's unopened and unwatched. David Cronenberg's Dead Ringers, a really interesting film where Jeremy Irons plays two twin brothers. It's weird Cronenberg stuff. If you like David Cronenberg, then get Dead Ringers, because it's one of his more memorable, better ones, if you ask me. Darkman, directed by Sam Raimi, his first foray into the superhero genre. The Blob, this is the 1988, I was 4 years off. The 1988 edition, I haven't seen that one, nor the Steve McQueen version from, was it the 50s or the 60s? Black Christmas, this gets my highest recommendation. This is one of the best films, I think, that Scream Factory currently has in their line. I hope they do a 4K of it, honestly, because I would totally go in on that. This is a really early slasher, like early 70s. It's just such a moody film. The Christmas atmosphere is turned into such a haunting and scary place in this film. The villain, or the man who calls over the phone, is incredibly threatening, and just everything about this film, the build-up, John Saxon as the police lieutenant, really one of my favorites that Scream Factory has. It gets my highest recommendation. I love Black Christmas, such a great example of a slasher, a very early example. Big Trouble in Little China. I haven't watched this film in so long, I hardly remember anything about it, but I've really been dying to revisit it lately, so I may do that very soon. Ben, this is a sequel to the film Willard, which I actually haven't seen and don't own yet. The Babadook, this is a newer horror film. I guess it's not too new anymore. I think it came out in 2014. I saw this in theaters when it came out, and I thought it was a fantastic, horrifying, dreadful horror film. If you haven't seen The Babadook, it's a great film. I think it's from Australia, if I'm not mistaken. The Autopsy of Jane Doe, another more recent horror film that I really enjoyed because of the chemistry between the two leads, played by Brian Cox and Emile Hirsch. They play a father and son who work in a morgue, and it's a horror film that has a lot of build-up. I don't know, I think it's actually a pretty creepy film, and I really like that one. It's a bit underrated, if you ask me. More John Carpenter, Assault on Precinct 13, a film that has an incredibly odd and convoluted path to the story it ends up telling, but it's overall a good film with fun characters and an interesting setting, and it's a good film. It's a really early one from him. 8mm, Nick Cage, haven't watched this one yet, but it sounds fantastic. We have another double feature, X-Ray and Schizoid? Schizoid? I don't know what the hell that is, honestly. Urban Legend, this is a 2000s or late 90s slasher. Jared Leto is a big familiar face in this film. I thought it was okay. It's kind of like Scream, but it's not as clever, and I didn't think the twist was very, earned or anything, but it's okay. It has some good kills from what I recall, and Robert Englund plays a professor in that film, so it's interesting. The Town That Dreaded Sundown. This film was not what I wanted it to be. I felt that there was too much humor, and it was tonally really weird, and it felt like it was going to be a really disturbing film. It's based on true events. It's from the 70s. I was expecting it to be pretty hard, but it's not really. And there's this one actress in it that was just a horrific actress. It was one of the most noticeably bad performances I've ever seen in my life. I don't love this film. It was a bit of a letdown for me. A letdown at sundown. That's all I have to say about that. John Carpenter's They Live. Haven't seen this film for an incredibly long time. I've had the Blu-ray for like a year, but haven't revisited it yet. The Texas Chainsaw Massacre Part 2. I like this sequel to the original film. Much different, but Dennis Hopper's a lot of fun, and the overall crazy, insane tone, I think, is it's enjoyable. It's a fun watch. The Tenet. This is starring and directed by Roman Polanski from the 70s, 1976. I don't know too much about this film, but I'm assuming it's a pretty solid psychological thriller. Tales from the Crypt, Demon Knight, a mid-90s anthology horror film that I have not seen yet. Starman, another John Carpenter film, one that I actually haven't watched. Jeff Bridges and Karen Allen of Indiana Jones. Slither, this is directed, yeah, it is directed, right? Yeah, it's written and directed by James Gunn. I think it's the first film he directed. Pretty fun, gross alien horror movie that, you know, really made a name for James Gunn, and I think it's a fun time. And it has a pretty nice ensemble cast as well. Ooh, yes, okay. These ones are some of my favorites. Okay, Sleepaway Camp. Would highly recommend this film. One of my favorite 80s slashers. I love Sleepaway Camp so much. It's a great film. I have such a soft spot for Sleepaway Camp. I also have Sleepaway Camp 2, of course, which is the much different sequel, but still just as enjoyable as the first one. And if you've seen this film, Angela, you know, she's a crazy nut in this movie. She's actually Bruce Springsteen's sister, Pamela Springsteen. But I love Sleepaway Camp 2. It's probably my favorite of the three films, or the first three. And then Sleepaway Camp 3, Unhappy... No, that one's called Unhappy Campers. This one's called Teenage Wasteland. And I've only watched this one once, and I didn't love it. It has this weird social commentary that comes off as being kind of incorrect and a little bit racist at times. It's a weird movie that tried to do something, and I feel like it kind of failed, but there is a really good death in this movie where Angela basically puts a hook on someone's belt loop on a flagpole and lifts her up the flagpole and then just drops her to her death. It's a pretty awesome death. It's super memorable. But that's Sleepaway Camp Part 3. I just really like that series a lot. Excluding the third one, it's okay. It's not my favorite. But yeah, Sleepaway Camp, I highly recommend those films. I love them so much. I wasn't sure if I was going to talk about these because I did just get them in literally this week and last week. So I was like, maybe I'll save them for a, what do you call it, an October haul video. But I'm just going to talk about them really quickly anyways. Halloween 3, the brand new 4K release. I really like Halloween 3. I was really craving it again this year, so I wanted to go ahead and get the new 4K. It's the only Halloween 4K I've bought so far. I'll probably get the first two for sure, but as of right now, I only have the third one, and it does come in a nice hard cardboard box, a lot like Creepshow, so I'm really impressed with the packaging there. John Carpenter's Prince of Darkness on 4K. I just watched this one with a bunch of friends a couple weeks ago, and I actually really liked it. Great score, great atmosphere, and a really fun ensemble of not very famous actors, but just a good ensemble of characters. Prince of Darkness, I think a good John Carpenter film, and They Live Again, the 4K version of They Live, so now I have the Blu-ray and the 4K. I don't know if I'm going to keep the Blu-ray, but yep, it is there. Okay, we have Return of the Living Dead Part 2. Have not watched this one yet, but I have watched and this sadly is now out of print through Scream Factory. I don't know who bought the rights to it or who's planning to release it next, but I love this film to death. If you want to buy just the normal, is it MGM that puts this out, or Orion and MGM? If you want to see this film and want to watch it on Blu-ray, I'd recommend just grabbing the normal release for it because it's such a fun zombie film. Rabid Dogs, I don't know what this is, honestly. It was just going out of print and I bought it because I'm a psychopath. Rabid, I saw this for the first time in theaters actually back in August. It's David Cronenberg's second feature film, I believe, and I thought it was pretty good. It felt very Cronenberg. The atmosphere definitely felt like his atmosphere. It's not an amazing film, and it's like not incredibly intelligent, but it's pretty good. I enjoyed it for what it was. Pumpkinhead 2, I've seen this once and I don't remember much about it at all, actually. It's been a long time. And Pumpkinhead, the first Pumpkinhead film, of course. I watched this for the first time last year.
That was pretty good.
I wasn't blown away by it, but that's Pumpkinhead. Poltergeist 3, I've never even seen Poltergeist 1, so I don't know why I have Poltergeist 2 and 3, probably because it was going out of print last year, so I just grabbed them. I'm not doing that anymore, by the way. I'm not just buying things because they're going out of print, because honestly, I could truly care less about Poltergeist 2 and 3. So I think that phase of my life is over. And the next phase is taking a sip of coffee. Silver Bullet. I watched this film so much as a kid, and I was really excited when the Blu-ray was announced. I haven't revisited it yet on Blu-ray, but it's a werewolf film from the mid-'80s starring Corey Haim, Gary Busey, and Everett McGill of Twin Peaks, Big Ed Hurley. And yeah, this is just like, in my mind, a classic 80s horror movie. I would recommend Silver Bullet based on my perception of the film as a 12-year-old, but now that I am 24, I don't know if I'll like it as much. But yeah, Silver Bullet, I think it's a fun film. Silent Hill, I haven't actually seen this yet, but I do love Silent Hill for its atmosphere, music, and just overall creepiness. So I need to check this one out. Sean Bean's in it. You gotta watch it if Sean Bean's in it. Shocker, this is a Wes Craven film from the 90s, I think, or very late 80s, 1989. I haven't watched the Blu-ray yet, but I actually did catch a lot of this on, like, HBO one day, and I felt like the finale of the film was way too long. The beginning was interesting and fun, but, yeah, it's weird. It's a weird one. It's not like a classic Craven film, but it's not like really bad at all, honestly. Oh, and here's another Wes Craven film, The Serpent and the Rainbow. I watched this film so long ago. I got it on Netflix DVD like probably a decade ago now. I wanted to see it because it's a Wes Craven film. And I really don't remember much of anything about this film, honestly. Scanners 2 and 3, I hear these are kind of bad sequels to Scanners, but I felt like I needed to grab them and get them. And I don't even like the original Scanners that much, honestly. I actually preferred Scanner Cop over the original film. Phantom of the Paradise, Brian De Palma. I really am interested in this film. Have yet to have found the time to watch it, but I love the design of this. Jessica Harper's in it. Love Jessica Harper. So, Phantom of the Opera, starring Robert Englund. The People Under the Stairs. I love this film. This is a Wes Craven film from the 90s that actually stars Ed and Nadine from Twin Peaks, and it's so much fun. If you've seen, like, Don't Breathe, it's a more campy version of Don't Breathe. Obviously, came out before Don't Breathe. And yeah, it's just a really fun film. I love People Under the Stairs. Do not hesitate and get this film. It's so much fun. Over Your Dead Body. This is a Takashi Miike film, and I actually haven't watched it yet, but I am most certainly interested in it. Of Unknown Origin, perhaps the most underrated film in the Scream Factory collection. I got such a kick out of this film. It stars Peter Weller of RoboCop as a sort of upstate New York businessman who just moved into a new condo or apartment with his wife, and he got everything all set up and perfect and just the way he wants it, but then this rat comes in and is just biting through his walls and destroying his house, and it's a sort of comedy horror about Peter Weller fighting this giant rat in his New York apartment, and it's so much fun. And yeah, you have to watch Of Unknown Origin. It is fantastic. I got such a kick out of it when I watched it. Ninja 3, The Domination. Cool cover, but cannot say much about the film. Nightbreed, Clive Barker, fantasy horror film that I have yet to experience. My Bloody Valentine, the original one from the 80s. I've seen the remake, but not this one. Motel Hell, I've seen this film twice now, rewatched it last Halloween, and didn't love it. I think I wrote a review on Letterboxd. I think my favorite part of it was Rory Calhoun. He's just a really, to me, charismatic and such a nice screen presence. Misery. This is now out of print, I think, because Kino Lorber is doing a 4K release of this film, and I actually haven't opened the Blu-ray because I feel like I always see this movie on, like, HBO or AMC or something, so almost every time I experience Misery, it's on television, so I've not had an urge to open up the Blu-ray and watch it, because, you know, once you've seen it, you've kind of seen it, but it is a pretty nice suspenseful thriller. So that is Misery. Manhunter, this is, I think, the first film telling of Hannibal Lecter, directed by Michael Mann. Haven't actually watched this film yet, but I think it is out of print. The Lawnmower Man, Pierce Brosnan, really early 90s, or 90s film, I don't know if it's really early, but a really early example of CGI in film, like really bad, overly excessive CGI. I've seen parts of this film, but not the whole thing. Jeepers Creepers 2 and 1. I think both of these are now out of print, sadly. I have only caught pieces of these movies, again, on like cable television, so I've never seen them front to back, but a couple friends of mine really like Jeepers Creepers 2, and Leland Palmer is in it as like a football coach, I think. So yeah, I'm particularly excited for the sequel. Okay, now, I think that does it for all of the regular stuff, the normal single releases and slipcovers, so we will now jump right into the steelbooks. The Fog, a decent John Carpenter film. It has some cool atmosphere. I just watched this and just wrote a review, so you can check my letterbox for more about that. The Thing, this is obviously classic John Carpenter, maybe his very best film. It's a classic. It's one of the best horror films ever. Humanoids from the Deep, isn't this steelbook amazing? It's so cool. I think this might be out of print, and I don't think they have a standard release of this. Maybe they do, I might be wrong. But this is a pretty fun Roger Corman produced horror movie from the 80s about these like sea aliens that come out of the water. It was fun. I liked it. I watched it last year and enjoyed it quite a bit. And, of course, Joe Dante's The Howling. This is the last of the steelbooks, and I don't love this film. I prefer its sequel, Howling 2, Your Sister's a Werewolf, much more. I felt like this just had a really boring slog of a middle. The ending is really cool. I liked the first 10 minutes and the last 5 minutes, and the Dick Miller cameo. Other than that, The Howling was a bit lame to me. Now, we are done with the steelbooks. We're done with the regular stuff. We will now jump into the box sets that I have. We have the Vincent Price collection. This is the newest reissued version of this box set collection, whatever you want to call it. Lots of Edgar Allan Poe adaptations, lots of Roger Corman directed features in here. The It's Alive trilogy. What's the name of the man who made these films again? What the hell is his name? The Fly collection, this has the older Fly films from the 50s, I believe, and then the David Cronenberg film and the sequel to that film. The Critters collection, I've seen the first Critters and then the newest Critters movie. I haven't actually opened up to watch any of these Blu-rays yet, but it includes 4 Critters films. The Halloween collection, I have a question about this. I bought this for, like, really cheap at Half Price Books, secondhand. And I, like, throughout the last year have been watching some of these films. And my disc for Halloween 4 is the Stars/Anchor Bay release. Is that the right disc that's supposed to be in here? And my Halloween remake, the Rob Zombie one, is a Region B disc. So I think I got a little bit gypped on this release. I double-checked before filming this, and the rest of the discs say Scream Factory, so I think I'm okay there, but there are 2 discs in here that are a little bit wonky. If you have this set, and if I'm supposed to have a Region B disc and a Stars Anchor Bay disc, let me know. But yes, this is the Halloween Complete Collection. Very much out of print and pretty pricey nowadays. I like the first 3 Halloween films quite a bit, so if you want my Halloween recommendations, I think 1 through 3 are really quite good. The Omen collection, I remember as a kid when the 2006 remake was coming out, I was so scared by the trailer for that film, and I still have never watched it. I'm sure I would think it's really stupid now, but I was, how old was I? I was a 9-year-old kid. I was at the Mission Impossible 3 movie, and they played a trailer for The Omen, and it just scared me so much. And the last one here, of course, is the Friday the 13th box set. I watched all of these films last year. I made a video ranking all of them. You can get the link for that video down in the description or up here, because that was one of the biggest videos I've ever done. I mean, I had to watch, like, what is this, 12 movies? I don't even remember how many. I had to watch so many movies for that video, and I had a lot of fun doing that because I'd never seen the Friday the 13th films, at least most of them. But yes, that is the Friday the 13th collection box set. And that's everything I have for this video. We have now switched to my camera audio because my recorder, my voice recorder, actually ran out of batteries during that because that was just so much filming. But anyway, that is everything. That's my entire Scream Factory collection. I hope this video was of value to some of you who were looking for a few recommendations for the upcoming or maybe currently happening sale. But other than that, that's all I have for this video. Stay tuned for more Halloween-themed scary videos coming up in the rest of the month of October. If you liked this video, hit that like button. That'd really help me out. And if you enjoyed this video, also subscribing to the channel would be of great assistance as well. And that's all I have for you. I want to thank you all so much for watching. I sincerely hope to see you all again soon, and I will talk to you later.